Good morning. You're in tune to Win FM 98.9 on your radio dial. It's Friday, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. It's a day where everybody look forward to the weekend. It's the beginning of the weekend. It's a day where you can just start thinking early that it's time to lay your head down and get rid of some of the built up stress that you would have built up throughout the week. It's a day that everybody seems to love. Friday, it comes just before Saturday. Um, it's one of those days that you can be very stressful or you can be very happy. It's about that time on Friday mornings we do this program. The program is called Your Views. Your Views is a program that is aired on Win FM every Friday morning from 10 until 11 o'clock. It's a program where you can call in sometimes, like today you'll be able to do, and share your views on some of the things that are happening in and around St. Kitts and Nevis, the stresses of life and solutions to the stresses. That's one of the things that we always want to make sure that we find solutions to the problems that we are facing, because we're living in a world that is, sometimes I wonder, I've been saying it for the whole week, the world has changed. Not that it's changing, it has changed, and it has changed so quickly. You move one day, everything was so normal, and then another day, everything is going topsy-turvy, and it's just continues spiraling downwards. And the bad thing about it is about us, the people who have not recognized the seriousness of the change that the world has gone through, and the changes are yet to come. It's a focus that we have to now start to, we have to turn our attention to and realize that it's not going to ever be the same again. It matters not what people tell you. It's that life is going to change. It's going to get better. It would get better one of these days, but I don't know when. I can't give you any assurance. I'm not a prophet or prophetess. I can't foresee the future. But based on the trend, we know that we are in it for a long, long haul. And so we ask that we can't predict, but at least let us prepare. On Sunday is Mother's Day, and I want to congratulate and say Happy Mother's Day to all of those mothers, those who have dedicated their lives to raising our children. I think people don't understand, it's well overlooked about the chores and the task that a mother has, a role that she has to perform that it's only a mother can do. A lot of times we're taken for granted because we understand what it is to and how it is to multitask. And so we make it so easy, and people think that, it's very easy to be a mother. And young people look at us and see, or children look at us and see how simple it was, and they think that it's easy, and they're plunging into it, realizing now the difficulties. And then our mothers, once you're a mother, then you become a grandmother, and forever you'll be a mother. And that is one of the things that you have to, as women, we have to look to, not forward to. Sometimes for me, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being a mother. And it's even more pleasure being a grandmother. I do enjoy both roles. It's satisfying. It's sometimes you feel if they're not there, you feel worthless. And I think that is one of the things, the areas that I'm finding myself in. The children are growing up. And then you start to look towards what can you do, appreciating the fact that you have a grandchild that has grown up so quickly, because the time is flying so fast and your responsibilities are dwindling, and it's posing some problems for me because it is a joy for me to be a mother and a grandmother. It's one of the roles that I wouldn't trade for the world. It brings me joy and satisfaction, and I do that. I hope that it does that for most mothers, or if not all of the mothers, because it's a joy to have kids, a joy to raise them, and it's even more of a joy to see what they would become in their future. My name is Sandra Queeley, and it's always a pleasure to be here. It's the time where we air the program Your Views. Like I said earlier, Your Views is a program that airs on Win FM every Friday. I'm losing my train of thought. Every Friday around this time, it's a program that you can call in and we can have some discussions. And today it's going to be a different day. There's so many things that are happening around the world, and it's so many things that we have to pay attention to. It's so hard to focus because sometimes you focus on one aspect and then there's so many things that are spiraling downwards. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have our own trials and tribulations. When you look at the world and you see it coming, it's like a hurricane is fastly approaching, and you see it affecting other countries, and then you wonder, when it's going to be our turn. And this is exactly where the world is positioned now. We are seeing the effects of not just COVID-19. We are seeing nature taking its course. It's the weather pattern is not changing. I spoke to my sister in Holland, and she's wondering when is spring going to come, because it's supposed to be getting ready to go into summer, but they're still yet waiting for spring. The world, the weather is just doing as it pleases. It's May, the water is still cold. You think it's December. We still have, we're approaching our hurricane season, and so we know this is the time for our wet season, so we expect that. But it's just the perplexity of what is happening around us, and we are just accepting it. Sometimes I'm having conversations, and I wonder if I'm seeing the same thing as other people are seeing. It's a time that you have to start to seriously reflect on life, and one of the Christians would start telling you it's time for you to go to God, because they predict that it's coming to the end. Scientists would say that it's global warming. The Earth is doing some strange things, and this is based on us humans, our contribution, the things that we've done, the styrofoams, the plastics that we have used, the things that we thought would bring us comfort is destroying our habitat. We are not aware of how we have contributed to this, and the bad thing about it is that we don't even know how to fix it. We're making bad situation worse. And so we look at life and we wonder, where are we going? Where are we heading? And all I have to say is we just have to enjoy it every single day. I look forward to every day. Every day I get up, I think it's a blessing, because so many people who haven't had the chance to be here today, because they're not here. You have so many families who are dealing with stress, families who are, they have cancer, they have chronic diseases, they have incurable diseases. There are young people who are mourning losses, there are older people who are mourning, and the world is in such a sad state. So I always say, but it's not totally sadness there. Within all that sadness, there's the beauty of it all. We have nature, we have things that we can enjoy, we have look at our own fortune to see that we are operating almost normal when the whole world around us is closing down, and we are taking it for granted. And that is what I want to talk about this morning. The fact that we are taking everything else for granted because the NEOC and the government has done such a good job to keep us safe. And for us, we have taken that for granted too. I'm listening to the cries, and if you want to call in and you want to weigh in on this conversation, because I definitely need the opinion of the general public, the number is 662-0989, 466-0989, and 762-0989. It's the number you can call in and you can weigh in, because this discussion this morning affects all of us. I've listened, I'm looking at social media, and I'm listening in tune to what people on the street is saying, and people are thinking that the government needs to open now. Businesses are suffering. People are being laid off. You have the threat of vaccination for COVID-19. It's just chaos and confusion. Sometimes it's silent chaos, and sometimes the confusion is not so loud, but people are hearing and feeling the effects of it. And some people don't know where to turn, and we recognize that the fear factor is one of the biggest things that have been pushed. But if people can look at things differently from a more sane perspective, a more informed perspective, it will be much easier. But what I realize is that for us as skitishans and nivishans, we always want people to dictate to us the seriousness of situations, because we ourselves don't try to find out, how serious the situation is. We don't try to get the information, so we depend a lot on what people are saying in opposed to what we know. The information is out there, and if we would go out and look, and because it's a lot of different information out there, there's so many conflicting information out there, and so it's not just going out there and looking at the information, but being able to analyze the information based on the information that you have, the data that you have. You're supposed to be able to analyze it and put it in perspective. Some of the data I've been following the situation that we have in India. India is the big topic. It is affecting everybody's life. I know there are people who are trying to get back to St. Kitts and Nevis, and these are the areas that we have to focus on because it can pose some serious problems to us. People are trying to get away from their situation and they're wanting to come to a safe zone. But the unfortunate thing is that the majority of the situations happen when people are trying to get there because they think it's a safe zone and they don't know what they themselves are carrying. We have had the situation in India. India was one of the areas that the world was looking at where COVID was concerned. They had COVID under control very quickly. And then all of a sudden, what happened? They became complacent. And I see us heading in that same direction. I see us, going to find ourselves in a similar situation because people, when they're comfortable and they're safe, they want to explore more. The world is infected. There is a virus that is posing some serious problems, and the unfortunate thing is nobody seems to understand the virus and what the virus is doing. As a matter of fact, those of us who are supposed to know, we don't know, and those who know are not saying. And so we are basically operating in an environment or a situation that we are faced with that there's no book, there's no information written about it, and so we have to all experience it, and sometimes it is late when we do so. Anguilla was doing very well. As a matter of fact, they were a competition. We looked at Anguilla and we saw that they were, again, early. They were in control of their situation, and we were looking at Anguilla, and every time I look at the statistics, I always look and see where Anguilla is, and now Anguilla is not in a very good situation. They're not in a very good position. Why? Again, because when people are comfortable and things are not happening around them, they become complacent. St. Kitts is in a very good position. The world is looking at us and they want to understand that everybody has how many cases and we only have one case. We have had no hospitalizations and we have had no deaths. It is something that we can boast. But when we look at our attitude, and the question is how much longer would we be able to boast the fact that we only have one active case and we have had no hospitalization and no deaths. I mean, there are no deaths that prove that it happened based on COVID. People have their speculations, and they have been speculating, but there's no proof. And if there's no proof, we can't come to any conclusion that we have had deaths from relating to COVID-19. Why am I having this discussion? There are lots of things, talks out there. People want to party. Culturama is around the corner. People want to go out and, they want some relief. They want the government to release its grips and change some of the protocols that they have put in place so that people can have time to go out and party. Well, if we're living in a society that we have basically zero, we have one active case that is in isolation amongst ourselves. We haven't had any community spread, so we think that our environment is clear. So we know that anybody who's if we have any cases, it has to be imported. Somebody from overseas will be coming in, and basically that is how we would be getting any of the disease, any effects from the virus, because according to our statistics, we have no case basically is in St. Kitts and Nevis that is within the community. The cases, or cases that we would have had were isolated and tested and proved that they were clean and they were released into society. And the only one case that we have is under isolation. So therefore, any cases that we would have now would have been coming from overseas. Good. That is one of the understanding, because we're trying to see how we can look at the situation, analyze the situation, and come to our own conclusion. So, if we are going to argue the point that we have, according to Dr. Wilkinson, 40% of our population has been inoculated. So they have had the vaccine. So we know that 40% of our population, is have had at least the first vaccination, and the second round is happening now. And so we are doing what we're supposed to do. Please, we saw that in India. We saw that in Anguilla. We've seen that where people who have had the vaccination take it for granted that they are, because of the vaccination, they cannot be affected by or contract the virus. But We have to understand that they have said it from the beginning that not because you have had the vaccination doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot be infected again and that you cannot spread the virus. So because you're, and it's not just a think, it's thing. It is what is happening in the world today. We have no control over it. All we are doing, we are like lambs to the slaughter. We are following protocols that has been set to us from the where the world is concerned. This is everybody's trying to control the spread of COVID-19. So everybody tried to put these protocols in place. So it's not just a sink, it's sing. It's not the sink, it's government who's doing this. It's not the NEOC who's doing it. We have to make sure that the protocols were working. So if they're working for us now, why are we going to change it? We have seen people taking the route where they're having parties still. Of course, we are not having no big song and dance about that, because at the end of the day, like we said, we do not have community spread, so we expect that is enough. Room for people to party. You have that leverage to do that because we don't have the problem of COVID in our country. I was having a discussion with my sister yesterday, and she was talking about Holland and that they were given, because people were making noise. The government felt it was time to give them some freedom to do what they want to do. And the craziest things happened. Everybody decided to have parties and parades and going to the parks, and everybody came out in their number because you feel like you've been locked away for so long. And so what happened now is another situation is going to happen, because then you recognize that people who are out there who have had the virus or mingling with people who were finding solace or security in their homes, and now they're out and the virus is starting to spread again. And so what is going to happen? They're going back again on the lockdown. I'm saying that to say this. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have been privileged. We have been protected, and according to the Christians, we've been blessed. There's somebody out there or up there is looking down on us. So why are we fighting now to want to open our borders to whom? The whole world is facing a serious problem with this pandemic. America is having its full share of the problem. Europe is having their shares of the problem. These are the people that we try to, most of our tourists comes from. We know that in India it's a different it's a different strain of the virus, and they're realizing that this is one of the problems. Like I said before, nobody seems to have a good understanding of what the virus is doing. Nobody has a good understanding of what the virus is about. As a matter of fact, nobody seems to know where this virus came from. Like I said, those who know are not saying, and we who don't know, we are just assuming. And so we don't have enough information to come to a conclusion, understanding what the virus is going to do and when it's going to do what. And so, if the protocols were working, or they are working for us, why are we trying to change them? We are struggling. We are not looking at what the government has to do and the effects of COVID on our economy. The tourism sector, there are a lot of people who are not working. We have to realize that we have ourselves have to become a little more creative, where we have to change from the hospitality industry to otherwise. People are focusing on food security. We have people who are doing backyard farming, and there are people who are doing farming on a larger scale. People are now livestock raised farming. We have had that, and this is something that we lived on. When I was growing up as a little girl, everybody had their own livestock, and you had your little fowls, and who you depended on your eggs. You had your animals, your sheep and your goats for meat. You had the chicken, the fowls that we use for meat and egg. And so that was our lifestyle. And in the backyard, we had our little garden where we planted our vegetables, the pumpkin, the sweet potatoes, the herbs, the thyme for seasoning. Those were our spices. And then we were dependent heavily on the fishermen coming in. And those of us who were poor, like us, we were waiting for the little sprat and the ones that they would throw out of the boats. And we made that, and we used that for our own consumption. And life was good. We were not plagued with these diseases. Cancer wasn't something that we knew of. because we thought that we were eating right, and people call that poor people food, but that was food for life. That for me was soul food. That is what kept us from having to see doctors at a very young age. I can't remember. I remember the first time I went to a doctor, I was 16 years old, and it was hormonal imbalances, things that you didn't know of. Again, that is when we started to eat the corned beef and the canned foods, and we move away from the way that we were eating to the fast foods, and it started to wreak havoc on our system. So we are back to those days. So those are the days that we are accustomed to. So when people are saying, you feel like you're locked down and the economy is not thriving, tourism was not something that we depended on. Of course, yeah, there was a sugar industry that the country, depended on economically. But we have to start looking at other means and ways of dealing with our situation, not forcing to open. Open to who is the question. And I'm going to go back. Our tourists comes from Europe and America. The Caribbean people, we are accustomed to just slip in and slip out. That is something that cannot and will not happen now. Why are we forcing it? And I go on social media and I see people are complaining about the fact that we have been vaccinated, so why can't we change the quarantine days from 14 to 9 days? The question is, then we're just put in days because we want to put in days. I thought the 14 days was because of what the virus was doing. It was the fact that you could not detect it for that time. So if you're going to change it to 9 days, then something was wrong in the beginning then. Or we are defeating the purpose then because people just want to, and I'm listening to people who are supposed to be sensible making these kind of statements. But then I would ask the question, oh yeah, we want CPL to come and we can't have people coming in and having them in quarantine for such a long time. Quarantine was not just a way for government to make money. It's a way so that we can protect our people. And if the virus is doing, and that hasn't changed as far as I'm concerned, with the 14 days detection, I don't think that would have changed. So if it takes 14 days to detect the virus and you're going to put people in quarantine for 9 days, what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I'm not properly informed, but based on the information that I have and that I'm still reading, maybe I'll think information has changed. It's not about accommodating. It was not because we wanted to put 14 days for me based on, and I would have had the discussion with the medical chief of staff. We had that interview, and the reason why they would have used the 14-day window was because of the fact it took that long before you can detect the virus. So if it took that long for detection, why are we now changing to 9 days? It is not because you are vaccinated. Vaccinated for me, based on the information that I would have had, based on that I would have read, it is just going to control the severity of the symptoms if you become infected with the virus. It is not going to stop you from contracting it, and it's not going to stop you from spreading it. Not from those vaccinations that I know of, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca. Those are the three major ones, and for me, those are the ones that it doesn't protect you, and these are the ones that we are administering to our people. It doesn't stop you from getting the virus. It doesn't cure the virus, and it doesn't stop you from spreading the virus. And if that is the case, then the question I'm going to ask is, why are we changing the quarantine dates? The government should not bend, and I don't care. Those of you who know me very well would understand that I say it like I see it, and I do not care what anybody else think about it. That is my opinion. You are entitled to your opinion, and I am entitled to my opinion. And my opinion is, I don't think that the government should start to bend, because there's certain people who are making noise about opening up. If this is what we would have done to control, we look at our situation that we have. Our hospital is not in any shape or form to take on what we're seeing overseas. India has a population of over 3 billion people, and they are becoming infected in the hundreds of thousands. Think it's at a population of over 60,000 people. It takes us about 15 minutes for that virus to wipe us out. Our hospital is not in any shape or form. We don't have anybody here, virologists who understand the virus, and we are going to use our general practitioners to try to see how they can control the spread. We are not in a position, we are not ready for this virus to come or have community spread. When you see what this virus is doing, these different variants that are coming, we understand the seriousness of it. So, are we going to open up because people want to party? And people have to now understand that the business sector, I am a business person, I have felt the brunt of COVID-19. All of us has to make adjustments. It is a struggle. The struggle is real. But like I said, it's not a problem for just St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a problem that the whole world is facing. Some of us are fortunate to the fact that we still can work. There are some people who have not worked for a whole year and can't seem to find out when or if ever they would work again. The government have put out a stimulus package. And again, when you look at our economy, I don't know, they're working magic because we are not seeing or not feeling the effects, basically, of the COVID-19. Let's go to the phone lines and take this call. Caller, you live on Your Views.
Sandra, good morning. How are you?
I am great. COVID-free
God for life.
and great.
Thank God for that.
Thank you.
But Sandra, I don't listen to some people on this radio, right? And the way how they're talking, right? They're saying that they're discouraging people, but just the way how they're talking, they're discouraging people. The Prime Minister and the Premier of Nevis, they have to do what they got to do. They have to protect the people.
Definitely.
Some people saying they're forcing people and they're bullying. They're bullying you, that's the job. You understand? It's just like if you're a Christian and you tell me, okay, your life to Christ before it's too late, and then I'm going to tell you, me ain't ready yet. And you're going to say, okay, do it before it's too late because you know what will happen. It's the same thing the Prime Minister tell them and the Premier telling them, take the vaccine. That's the job. They have to protect the people, and people don't understand that. Suppose they have to let them and play dead now. Then say, okay, the Prime Minister, they ain't doing nothing for everybody. Every second you hear people on the radio, educate, I hear machine doctor, Sebastian, I think that's he name telling them about the vaccine. Sandra, I got son coming out of school this year, and he had to go and take machine 2 shots before he graduated, you know? And if you had child just born, as soon as the child 6 weeks, they get a vaccination, you know that, right?
Yeah.
And if he miss one, sometimes you carry to the clinic, they give them 3 one time. So vaccination ain't nothing new. I don't know some people talking about why going to do to you. They're just putting fear in people. And maybe that is why you see some people now don't want it because it's fear. Some people on the radio putting it in people, the fear. You understand what I'm saying, Sandra? The vaccination ain't killing nobody. This thing is a deadly thing, you know, Sandra, when I look at the people them in India, oh my God, how they're going on, they're laying down, they're doing I think, oh my God, Sandra, it's very disgusting, you know?
Yep.
And because they feel like saying it's this and saying it's here, we ain't got it here and we must do that, let them wait. Like you just say, if once somebody come in with that illegal and light up the whole place, you will show everybody running to respect the vaccination. And before the vaccination come out, you know, they used to want to know, oh, when they're going to bring out this thing, you know, and now we come out, they're still putting fear in people.
Yep.
I don't think that the Prime Minister bullying, but that's his job. That is the Prime Minister's job, to encourage people to take this vaccination because it's deadly thing. And it's saying it's alone doing it, you know. The leaders, them doing it. It's all over. Even in the Virgin Islands, I see them got a loudspeaker going on and begging people to take this vaccination. You understand? But it's going to hard time that they're going to have to pay for it. And they want to say, okay. And they want to say, okay, the body is them one. They control the body, right? You can't tell them to take it. But I don't got my business place. My business place is mine. If I don't want you to work here and come in my place, your body is your one. You can have it, so. Love son or have son. They say you want to do what you like with your body, but my business place, I try to protect it. Then you talk about, oh, you want to discriminate against people because they want to take the vaccination. You understand?
Yes.
It's a deadly thing, and people must understand the Prime Minister ain't bullying you. He have to do what he have to do. And I don't hear when people tearing down the Prime Minister like that. He don't have to he could ignore them. He could turn his back and say, hey, ain't taking no blame for nobody. What is to be will be. You Understand, Sandra?
Yep.
Come on, they got such a loving Prime Minister. He care for them. Sharing the love with them, and they don't want to respect at all for the man or something that came down. And Sandra, you
I'm sorry?
just a matter of time.
Yep.
They might have to pay for the vaccination because, trust me, when it starts to get scarce, after they don't do a certain amount and it starts to get scarce, trust me, people going to have to pay for it because it's certain place you can't go. If you're going to Barbados for a visa, green card, you're going to make sure you do. If you're going on a plane, you remember when the World Trade Center blew up now?
Mm-hmm.
You see what they do? And everybody around the world had to follow that rule. When you're going, you have to take off your shoes. They had to pat you down and you can't go with liquid and all them kind of thing on the plane. And that is just what's going to happen. America going to bring down the rule and you're going to see the whole world. Let them blame the Prime Minister when America bring down the rule on them. Sandra, you have a blessed day.
You do likewise and stay safe.
Keep on educating the people, them, okay?
I just hope they listen.
You're doing a very good job.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. It's the world that we are living in, and we have to understand that changes are going to come, and we have to abide by changes. If we want to live in the world and we want to trade, then there's certain protocols, and the caller made some sense, really good sense when she said about the World Trade Center. And we still have to go through, these are protocols. When you go in, people traveling differently. Now, once ago, you used to dress up when you go, but now you have to take off almost everything. So you are abiding by the rules. You can't travel with certain substances because it poses a problem. And it's the same thing with COVID-19. Let's go to the phone lines and take another call. Caller, your life and your views. Hello? We would have lost that caller, unfortunately. I suppose they'll call back in. But it's the seriousness of the situation. The caller made a very, very good point, is that we always wait until it's too late, and then we start to look at situation. The Prime Minister can only do what he has to do. We have another caller. Let's take this call. Caller, you're live on your views.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, honey, how are you doing?
Hey, good. How you do? I haven't seen you in a very long time. Everything is good with you, I hope?
I'm here. You know, you're always special to me.
I appreciate that.
We'll talk.
Okay.
So, you've been talking for a while, and not only today, week after week, times when you have, guests in the studio, ministers, business people, discussing the issues which are very important to our nation, to our economy, to our families, communities, and to our world. Mm-hmm. And we must say and give thanks because it has been a wonderful and beautiful morning so far. Mm. The sun is blazing down in all its glory and a perfect Caribbean morning. Mm-hmm. And we have to give thanks and praise. Yuloka is there?
No.
Oh, okay. And let me say Happy Mother's Day in advance.
Thank you.
To you.
Thank you.
And to the many wonderful mothers around the world. I can't go into calling names at this time. But you would have touched in reference to so many things this morning. You talk about dieting. You talk about CPL. The big topic in the world, the COVID, the tourism. There's so many things that we can touch on. And in reference to India, they have over 1 billion people, and the serious and unfortunate position down there in India is not a very good position for any country to be facing at this time. Mm-hmm. We are facing a crisis, but when you have a crisis and a crisis, just like in St. Vincent and the Grenadines,
definitely,
where the country was already facing a crisis economically, socially, and otherwise, and then having the volcano coming down, it compounded the serious, unfortunate problems which the government and people of St. Vincent are facing. And our prayers and hearts and everything goes out to them. Mm-hmm. They would have witnessed it in 1979, that's 42 years ago. And as I said, that lasted over 7 months. And the one before was in 1902, that even lasted even longer. Mm-hmm. And we hope that this time around that it will not last that long. Because when you're going to have people in shelters, for months and not working, the government coppers done already under serious, serious problems. But I will just leave that there for now. Let me touch on, because I want to ask you in reference to the severance payment, the COVID in a quick way, the CPL. These may be three things, because when you look at the severance fund, before the government took office in 2015, the severance fund was officially bankrupt. And there were people who waited more than 10 years and never got the payment until this government got into power. And there were no crisis at that time. But now we have a crisis, which is an unfortunate position that the government did not prepare for, bring on its own, but the government is still doing its best. But the Prime Minister was right, because the Prime Minister said the money is there. The money is there. But you had people who are in business who would just not comply with the law. Nobody has a right to do wrong. Nobody has a right to break the law. The only right a man has a right to do is what is right. But many people choose to do what is wrong and want to sing a good song.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that the government is doing its utmost best under the circumstances. And I continue to say, the government is not even getting the credit that the government deserves. And we ain't talking about no politics and no party.
No, it's definitely.
We are being objective, constructive, and calling it as it is. Mm-hmm. Because there are many good reasons why we could be proud at this time to be Kittitians and Nivigians. Very, very, very proud. And for many, many reasons. Right? Excellent performance so far by the health professionals. And leading the way by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is why the movie people decided that they're coming to St. Kitts and Nevis to do the business, because they considered St. Kitts and Nevis to be the safest place. Mm-hmm. The CPL now have just chosen St. Kitts to host the cricket. In your view, give your perspective to that important decision made by CPL, because there's so many things that I can say about that. But just let me break and get your view in reference to St. Kitts hosting the CPL.
Yeah, it is a good thing economically. Our economy needs a boost. Protocols have to be followed, because we see that in most of the countries, what happens is when you lay your guards down and you encourage situations like this, people go out in their numbers, and it poses issues, because we have cricketers who are coming in, and they're coming in from different areas. Some of them would have gone to India themselves. I mean, I know they would have to go to quarantine, and those are the situations. We have to make sure that we follow the protocols. I've said that this morning, and everybody wants the party. Everybody wants to go to the games. The government, I think, they want to take the initiative of making sure that the people who attend these games are the people who are vaccinated. And I know other people are going to have problems with it, and people are going to use this, and they're going to say that government is using this as fear tactics, and they're trying to bully people into taking the vaccination. But the government has a right. They have a responsibility to the whole nation, and people who are reluctant to do these things, they cannot. You can't associate. You can't be in company of people when you pose a problem, a risk, and people who would have taken the responsibility of going out and doing it, and others who are not taking that responsibility, and you want to share the same benefits. So CPL coming here is a good thing. It's a good boost for the economy, but they have to make sure that the protocols are followed.
Yes, definitely. The government has an obligation to protect its people and its livelihood of its people. Mm-hmm. And as I said, they have been doing an excellent job. And as we rightfully say, the CPL coming here is an excellent development for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And in reference to the players, fortunately, they have a few months between now and the end of August, so we still have some time. I will leave the CPL for now because there's so much that I have to say on that. And for me, as a commentator and a lover of this very important game, they are definitely tremendous benefit, and there are things that I would like to go into depth. But, I would just leave that for now.
Yeah.
You would have mentioned in reference to food and the dieting, and this is even something that people are not taking seriously. Because, yes, the only one thing that people must do, and what people must do is die. But for you to live, you must eat. And for you to continue to live the best you can in terms of health and otherwise, is when you eat, you are doing two things to yourself. One, you either healing yourself or you're harming yourself. It's H. It's either heal or harm, help or hurt. There is no two other ways about it. And there are many people, imagine that people sometimes eat 90% bad, 10% good, or maybe 95% bad, 5% good, when it really should be the other way around. And you can't tell some people, don't consume this. This is not anything that is in your best interest, is doing you any good. And it's not that they only even consume it occasionally. If you could say in a lot of senses permanently, because almost every day. The bad thing, the wrong things, not the good things. And you can't continue to reap or support bad, consume bad, and expect to get the best results. So one and everyone have to take, in terms of what they consume, very seriously. And as I said, there are a lot of things that people can choose to do, which is in their best interest of their health, their well-being, their future, their development. People got to laugh. People have to socialize. And people must drink water. The only drink in the world that has no calories, no sodium, no fat, no sugar. Help your digestive system. Conquer kidney stone. If people want to lose weight, that is the number one contributor for weight loss, among the many other tremendous benefits. And the only drink that is 100% good is what some people do not consume or do not consume enough. So these are things that people definitely have to take very seriously. Let me say quickly, give your feedback in reference to the importance and the benefits of having a good tourism plant, a good tourism product. And then I will just touch on one last thing and then leave it.
We have been in the process of trying to, because we are new where tourism is concerned, and we have seen the things that the Caribbean always sell where tourism is concerned is the sun, the sea, peace, and tranquility. That's what tourists normally leave their shores to come to enjoy from us. We have definitely our different cuisines that we sell. We have our culture is different, and people come and see the monkeys as one of the tourism attraction. We have many little things that people would leave from their countries. When I go to a different country, I want to see how the native lives, and most of the time that is what tourists are looking forward to. But again, it's a long topic that we can discuss because there's so many things that we're doing wrong where tourism is concerned. We are giving the tourists what they're accustomed to and not what they want. And it's like I said, it's a discussion that we can have, and we're running out of time, so it's not a discussion that we can have right now. But the tourism product is we have that. For us to be creative and encourage people to come to our shores, we are still in the process of working on that.
Yeah, and as you say, rightfully, because of time, because this is something that I definitely would like to have more time to go into depth in reference to tourism, because it is by far the number one in terms of the contribution to the economy. It has been that way for a long time, even when sugar was still, in harvest. So we will just leave that in terms of the the tourism. I just want to probably end with this in reference to you realize that the present leader of the opposition is a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
The present chairman of the opposition party is a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I will say, under no, I mean, you name it, I am extremely, extremely disappointed in their behavior and in their contributions. Imagine that these people, because when it comes to you as an expert, you are the one who's supposed to be discussing what you have the expertise to share. I have not heard them officially on any forum. This dishonorable and horrible leader of the opposition has not come forward, whether he do it on a national scale, whether he do it on the party scale, because he is serving people. The chairman is looking forward to serve people. Well, unfortunately, I don't even think that he will ever get a chance to serve in government. But that will leave that for another time. The reality is that when you have the expertise and it's something that is important as COVID-19, and it has to do with health, these people should be coming forward, dialoguing, interacting, and educating the public in reference to all the misinformation, fake news, I mean, you name it. There is no country in the world that will get everything right. There is no government in the world that will get everything right. There is no leader in the world that will get everything right. When you want anything, every single thing right, that only will be in heaven. When it comes to on this earth, man will fall short. Government will fall short. Leaders will fall short. Fortunately, for St. Kitts and Nevis, I highly will rate the government in reference to a 90% performance. But what people will concentrate on the 10% that the government may not have done, and concentrate and not to praise the outstanding 90. But, you know, that is people. It's just like Bolt, who set the record, the fastest man in the world, 9.758. And just after he won the race, there are people who will still admit that he still cannot run. That is people. The sun could be shining, and there are people who will tell you that the rain is falling. That is just life.
Yeah, and
Fortunately,
I have to tell you.
Let's continue to move forward.
Yeah.
Let's continue to put our country in our hearts, in our lives, in our best interest. Whatever we can do, the interaction, the dialogue, the debate, the education, and the information that we can give, whether as leaders, whether as advisors, whether as expertise, experts. Let us continue to debate. But what is my best interest is only what is in the best interest of my country. I don't know about you, but I love St. Kitts and Nevis bad.
Okay.
Let me leave it there for now. It's just about 127 days in 2021. 238 days to go, with just about 24 more days before the beginning of the hurricane season. And we're hoping and praying that the Master will continue and open his clouds and pour his blessings in terms of the water on our nation. But what I pray and hope, that he will leave the wind away, because that is what caused when we got the storm, what caused the harm, the wind.
Thank you.
Let me say that I hope and pray, and that God will continue to pour his blessings and this proud federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. May God bless you, your family, your community, and by extension, this beautiful country that we so love, we live, and we are enjoying. You take care and continue to be the positive force that I know you have been and you will continue to be.
Thank you, thank you. That was a speech of a prime minister. I really appreciate the fact that you would have calling. Normally, you tell people that you don't have time, but to be honest with you, I find he was making so much sense. The areas that you would have touched on, areas that we have to focus on, and I'm gonna. We out of time, not almost out of time. I'm just looking in the other studio and I realize that Devon is doing something else, so I'm going to infringe a little bit more on his time. But we have to take the situation as serious as it comes. We feel like we've been locked down. It's not, it's over a year, and I do understand that, but we are still operating in comparison to other countries like normal, and this is something that we have to be grateful for. And like I said earlier, we cannot become complacent because we understand when our countries have become complacent, we see what happens. People who let their guards down, COVID definitely got in, and I'm going to ask you again to focus on the fact that we are not properly equipped for a serious surge of COVID-19 in our country. I've seen people dying, and that's on the television. Social media have given us the opportunity to do so. We recognize the hardships that COVID has brought to the biggest nations. And so for us as a small country where people are wanting to come here, and that's another thing the government has to be very careful of, we do understand we have the free movement of people coming from within the Caribbean, but this is a time now that we have to definitely start looking at control mechanism. People are coming in here in throws. And when they're coming here because their pastures are not as green, we think and we can boast that we are operating almost normal. But if we continue to do what we're doing, immigration has to exercise some more caution. They have to be a little more responsible. We have to not allow people just to come here because our citizens are unemployed, or unemployment rate is very high at this time. And any little thing that we have, I hope that the government will look to the fact that we have to make sure that our citizens are looked after. It's an unfortunate situation that we have, not an unfortunate situation, but at this time, we have our fellow countrymen or neighboring islands will have to understand that everybody is facing hardship, and I know everybody would want to run to a rock for refuge, but right now, the little rock, Golden Rock, we are really having we're faced with our own problems, and immigration, you have to make sure that people who are coming here, it's vacation time. I don't know whether or not they can be here for vacation, but we see people, the free movement of people are coming because they're looking for work. And the unfortunate thing is, I've seen people still coming in today, and 2 days, 3 days later, they are working, and we have people who are citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis who has nowhere else to go. They're still sitting at home. People are coming, children are coming out of school. There's no work for them, but people are coming in and they're getting jobs. This is one of the areas that the government, the immigration has to put their foot down. It is sad, but it's the reality of the situation. It's every man for himself and God for us all. We have to protect whatever we have here for our citizens. People are here, and it doesn't make sense people come to our country because we are not in a position to facilitate, and we can't help them because we are citizens. There are hotel industries. The people are home, and they've been home for over a year, and there's no way, there's nothing else to do. So whatever little jobs that we have here, let us see if we can have the flexibility of those who are coming from the hotel industry, the tourism industry, and see how they can hold on to it, and not foreigners. I have nothing against foreigners coming, but not at this time, because it is just not the right time. All people need help. We are not like America where people can go on welfare. We see people who are applying for the severance pay, but there are some employers who have not been basically paying into the severance fund. Government is taking a lot of blows because people think it's government that is withholding, but that is not true. It is it's a process, and when you reach a certain, there are lots of roadblocks because, and you're still trying to help, but it is what it is. And so, what I'm asking, the people who are coming from overseas, they have no job, they have nowhere to go, and we are allowing them in. We have to exercise some more control. And when you call the authorities, they're going to say, oh, they have that, it's free movement. But free movement has to be controlled at this time. We are not what we used to be. Our economy is not as strong as it used to be. And if we continue down that line, the way that we are doing things, I mean, your people are investors and investing, and they're allowed to bring in their own workers. I think government has to start putting a hold on that and look at the fact that all locals, we have to be given preferences, because the thing is, people are coming and they're taking pay cuts because at the end of the day they want to be competitive and they want a job. Or locals, I mean, you have to do the same thing sometimes, but you don't want to budge. But you have to remember, you can't afford to pay what you used to pay, because the businesses, they're suffering. They too are they have their own hardships. We have seen a lot of price cuts. We have seen the price wars going on. People are bringing in things on special. But when you import stuff, you don't have a lot of your suppliers, they're not bending. And so, but you, because of the fact that you need to survive, you have to take a cut in on your profits and stuff. So it is not an easy thing. So I'm asking immigration to start look at the situation, realizing that people are coming here because they're facing hardships in their country, and then we are going to be put in a similar situation. So we have to learn to exercise caution, and we have to be more responsible, realizing that our own citizens are feeling the brunt of the situation. And Devon is out, so I suppose he's coming in now for his program. It was a beautiful day. It was that hour went by so quickly. I really do enjoy my program, doing this program. I want to thank the callers who would have calling and make their contribution. I want to say to the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, please continue to exercise caution. It's protocols. If you don't want to take the vaccination, people have a right to make their own decision. Your bodies are yours, but you have to take into consideration what can happen. Understand, try to get the information, get the data. Do not listen to people, because people are telling you not to take it and they themselves are taking it. So you have to know what you're doing to stop being a lamb going to slaughter by listening to information that you have basically, you yourself can't analyze. And in your hearts of hearts, please do the right thing. The world is not changing. The world has changed. The way what we are accustomed to, the life that we are accustomed to, is no longer the same. Could you imagine somebody walking into the banks now with a mask? That was unheard of. And this is where the world is right now. We have to make sure that when we go out and we want to party, like we say, remember there's a tomorrow. Remember that you're going back home to your grandmother or your grandfather or your sick auntie, your child that cannot take the vaccination. Take these things into consideration, that whereas you might be protected, you have people in your household who cannot take the vaccination. So although you are protected, you can still spread the virus. So please, exercise caution. We adhere to protocols. That is social distancing. You have to make sure that you wear your mask and you have to sanitize. The life that you save might very well be that of your mother or your grandmother or your sick child or your sister or brother who have a chronic disease who cannot take the vaccination. So not because you've been vaccinated, don't think it gives you the right to go out and just party like there's no tomorrow, because you still can become infected and you still can spread the virus. And like I said, there's some people who will not be able to take the virus, and you yourself can be a threat. So even though you're vaccinated, and those of you who are hesitating, please, it's now or never. At one point in time, you would have to pay for it if you're willing to do so. If you're willing to do so later on, then, but if you look at what is happening in the world today, you would not be able to travel without it. You would not be able to buy or sell without it. And now we're realizing that you would not be able to work without it. It's the world that we are living in. It's a beautiful Friday. The sun is all, it's in all its glory. People are waiting for Friday night so that they can party. It's a good thing to do after you would have stressed yourself for a whole week. sometimes it's good that you can let your hair down and you can breathe and laugh and socialize and extend this in a life extension. And I'm going to say to you, whatever you do, remember, the world is not the same. It has changed. My name is Sandra Queeley. It was a pleasure. Stay tuned to Win FM 98.9. Voices is up next.